Hello and welcome back to another episode in our Ideal Wealth Grower video series. Today we want to talk a little bit about what are 5 things you need to know before you start investing in real estate, and especially in residential real estate, on your ideal investor journey towards your time freedom point. So if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up if you like that video, and please watch all the way to the end to really get the full benefit. Invite your friends to these videos and share them on social media and anywhere you have somebody who is generally interested in investing but hasn't really found the right way. You have probably seen a lot of the volatility and all the different things that are going on in the markets these days. And real estate has always proven to be one of the best investment opportunities because it retains its value. It can pay you passive income, which is what we're doing here at Ideal Wealth Grower. So without further ado, let me share my screen and show you a little bit what we have prepared for you today. So as you can see here, we want to talk about 5 things you need to know before investing in real estate. And one of the things that I wanted to do is kind of lead you into how we're actually thinking about this and what the components are that are relevant. And you might be surprised on where I'm starting here, but I think it's important. So let's see if we simplify or want to simplify how we're basically going about things. There has been always, for many years and a lot of research, this idea of a left versus a right brain. And if you look at our image here, what we're basically saying is that on the left brain side, or people who have what's called left brain thinking, they have things like you see here. They do analysis, they apply logic, they create their ideas that way. They are very based on facts, always sometimes call that evidence. They use math and formulas, and math also in the context of, what tools would they use? They would probably rather go to use a spreadsheet than maybe a drawing or something like that. And when it comes to training, they constantly want to learn and want to train to get more sophisticated in their analysis, in their statistics, in their application of math, in their application of spreadsheets. Now, if you go on the right side, or here like the purplish reddish side, you see that the right side is associated with creativity, intuition, arts, creation or being creative, feeling and emotions, and imagination. So those are the different aspects, and so it's pretty distinct to look at what is a left brain or a right brain thinker. And what we really want is full, complete people who use all their abilities equally, if at all possible. So if we keep that in mind, then let's go and take the next step, because we don't just want to look at how we're thinking, but we want to actually address the mindset that's associated with it. For anybody who hasn't been on our Ideal Wealth Grower website, you will know, if you go there, you will find out that we have a free mindset manual. You can get that at idealwealthgrower.com/free or on the website itself. And it goes back to the fundamental idea of Carol Dweck, who wrote a book. Literally, the book is called Mindset. And there's a great image here that I got from Dan Irwin. You see that in the bottom right corner, where he took what's in the book and tried to compress it all down to one useful, easy to review image. So if you look here, we all have basically similar struggles. So those are called challenges, obstacles, effort, criticism, and success of others. But depending on what mindset we're actually applying, we might go about these different aspects of our life in 2 different ways. So if you have a fixed mindset, or some people also call it a limited mindset, and it is somewhat associated with the left brain mindset, is you avoid challenges, you give up more easily, you see efforts as fruitless, or worse, ignore useful negative feedback, and feel threatened when other people around you seem to be more successful than you are. Now, if you go to the right side, to the growth mindset, which we are actually promoting with the Mindset Manual, this means that you're embracing challenges, persist in the face of setbacks and challenges. You see effort as a path to mastery, which goes back to the training aspect that we mentioned earlier, and the willingness to constantly grow. Then you learn from criticism, you learn from feedback, you learn to apply things that worked and avoid things that don't work, and then find lessons and inspiration in the success of others, basically in the context of a role model. So if you now take that to our overall overarching point about things to avoid or things to do in the context of real estate investing, we go to how we actually apply this left and right brain aspect to what we call the ideal growth mindset. And anybody who has listened to me on podcasts or articles or has seen some of our videos, we have so far mainly focused on the left side. And you know that we are using this aspect of ideal, IDEAL, as our ideal wealth grower acronym, so to speak. And on the left side, it is exactly following what the left brain that we looked at earlier is showing. It addresses how can we make income, how can we use depreciation to save taxes, how can we activate the equity that might be sitting in our current residence or equity that has grown as we purchased and own houses for passive income, but while they're there, especially in markets these days, they grow in value, so that's appreciation. And then also, from listening and watching me, I always talk about using good debt and leverage, which means we put 20% of our own money in and we get 80% from a lender or a bank. But all of those things are very practical, analytical, math-oriented, like the left brain. And so I want to introduce you to 5 additional things that you need to basically be aware of and need to think about when it comes to real estate investing and having that ideal growth mindset. And those are here on the right side. And they are initiative, determination, energy, acknowledgement, and love. And those are very much more typically associated with the right side. And so to finally come to the point where we're looking at what are these additional 5 things, I show them here just as one word, but I want to give them to you also with a little bit more of an explanation. So I brought it back together here. Don't invest in real estate unless you know about these 5 things that are on the right brain or right side of the spectrum. And so we're talking the first I of this ideal on the right side that you now understand as initiative and momentum with the need of support. And what do we mean by that? It is common these days, especially when you're a little bit younger, to come from a system like, for example, in school or in college, or if you're working in a job, where what is expected of you is basically told to you in the form of commands or in classes or lessons or homework or all those kind of things. And in real estate investing, you have to grab a certain amount of initiative to maintain momentum. And what we mean here by support is you can theoretically go out and do all the research yourself. But what we're really wanting to get you to is to say, yes, we love for you to have initiative, but we also want to support you when you show initiative through our mentoring, through our training programs, through our podcasts, through our videos, so that the path towards your time freedom point gets easier. Then determination is the D in the idea for the right side, and it is to adopt a mindset of diligence that leads to confidence. Right? If you determine to actually reach your time freedom point, if you are determined to get 8, 9, 10 properties because you know that's what it takes to get the passive income that you need, then that is very important. And the diligence part about it is, how do we learn to look for well-performing properties and not just properties that look good because somebody wants to sell them and makes us believe or wants to make us believe that they actually have enough cash flow or that they're really going to work out well. So that key aspect. Why am I recommending that you should get an LLC? And there's a separate video and training for that. Is part of the diligence, because we want to protect your anonymity, we want to protect your liability, we want to protect your portfolio. Then, as you can see, the next one is the E, which stands for energy. And energy is, I always say, if you can look at each day getting up in the morning with a battery that is fully charged. And it's not just fully charged because you slept and you regained energy, but it's also fully charged with excitement. It's fully charged with being sure that you are on the right path and that you have the necessary support. And that is really, really important when, as I say here, the going gets tough. And I don't mean that deals don't work or stuff like that, but the going gets tough, especially when you look at the right side of the brain or the right side of the approach. is that there are tons and tons of naysayers. There are people who say if you show a little bit of success, you cannot get that by following the rules. Like, this whole discussion about billionaires. Or there are people who say, oh, real estate only performs very weak. You get 3 or 4%. I make way more in the stock market without really knowing anything. So to maintain your energy and your diligence, that is really important. And we are here to help you support that. Then acknowledgement. Acknowledgement means that you have to basically be aware that when you actually want to accomplish massive success, and I really believe strongly that reaching the time freedom point for anybody, regardless of the age at which you reach it, is a massive, massive amount of success, but you need to acknowledge that it's a journey. That's why we call it the ideal investor journey. And it's not something very quick. Now, if you have very, very favorable starting conditions, like you have already for some reason saving and accumulating a lot of money, or you have somehow gotten, like a life insurance payout or some other insurance payout, or you got a bonus or stuff like that, so that your starting position is unusually good, your time on the journey to get to your time freedom point might be shorter. But for most people, just because it takes a little while longer or it takes several years, the goal itself is still so worth it compared to any other regular life where you work until you're 65 and then you hope that there will be enough money in your 401k and enough money in Social Security. This approach is way better, but acknowledging that you basically have to be diligent and have to keep up the energy and have to fight against any naysayers around you, and that it takes time, that really gets you to the finish line with much more confidence and with much more power. And then love, in a sense, is providing for others and creating win-win-win situations. That is, again, a mindset aspect. So if you love what you do, that helps a lot. If you love that you can do something and help other people in the process. And what do I mean by win-win-win? Imagine you are in the process of getting your first property. And we help you and we do all the things to make sure that it's a well-performing property, good quality provider, good quality property management. But the first win that you do is between yourself and the seller and the lender to get a good deal. The second win, which is oftentimes overlooked, is that when the property is freshly renovated and comes on the market with your turnkey provider, regardless whether it's a renovated property or you could do the same thing with a build-to-rent property brand new, is that somebody is going to live there. And we focus on the left brain side a lot on how much rent can we make, does it meet the 1% rule, how much cash flow is it, all that analytical, math-oriented spreadsheet kind of stuff. But you also want to think about, okay, if I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath or 4-bedroom, 2-bath house that I'm now offering to the market, there are people involved. There is maybe a young growing family that is looking for the house that you just bought and that wants to live there and raise their family. So you are actually providing something really nice for them that is not just compensated by rent. They also appreciate that they now have a secure place to live. They have a garden, they have a garage, they have a freshly renovated or brand new property. That is a win that you're actually providing. And the more properties you're adding, the more you're adding to your basically social aspect of your investing. It's not just making money, but it's also loving the fact that you're helping families out there to have a nice, secure, good quality place to live for a fair rent. And if you have that kind of loving relationship with your mentor, with your turnkey providers, with your lender, and with your tenants, then overall, this whole aspect of investing in real estate becomes much more than just a money transaction. So I want you to keep in mind you have ideal things on the left and ideal things on the right, and you now know what those are. So to have the ideal growth mindset, the left and the right have to work together. And I hope that you will adopt and learn and join us in our community to use the ideal growth mindset to move forward on the ideal investor journey and reach your time freedom point. So with that said, again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Give the video a thumbs up and share it with your community, because this is a little bit of a different video today, but I hope it really helps you to get in the frame of mind to look at both sides of the coin, of both sides of the brain, and become a successful, ideal wealth grower investor.